Hi, we are working today on dividing with decimals. Good news is it's very similar to multiplying with decimals, except you're dividing, but the strategies are going to look familiar. So I have my list of steps I like to follow. And step number 1, recopy the problem vertically. I noticed Miss Guthrie does a little arrow to remind herself to do that, so I put that in there. Step 2, ignore the decimal and divide. Step 3, estimate your answer. And step 4, place the decimal closest to your estimate. So let's start. I recopied the problem for me early. A little mistake here. So I like to do it partial quotients, the big 7 way. So I'm going to do it that way. I'll show you both ways. Actually, there's 3 today. You can choose. So I say to myself, well, I don't know about you, but I don't know the answer to 42 divided. Between 41 and 7/10. That you can do it is the spaces way. And this is the same general setup as last week too. So in this one, recopy vertically, ignore the decimal and divide. Count the spaces to the right of the decimals in the problem and match the spaces to the right of the decimal in the answer. Okay, it's recopied for us. And here we go. I'm going with the big 7 method again. I can't just do 6 times 1,000, which is 2,898. I can't do 6 times 1,000 because that's too big. So what I like to do, if you remember, is I like to say, well, 6 times 4 is 24. So if I write that 24 down here and I write the 4 over here, then I can just put a 0 in these two spaces and 2 zeros after the 4. And that means I'm taking 400 sixes out. So we'll do that. 400 sixes out gives us 498. And then I do that again. I say, well, I know that 6 times, what's an easy one? 6 times 5 is 30. So I'm going to put the 5 there, and then I can fill in with an extra 0, right? And now I have 198. And I can say, let's see here. 6 times 10 is 60. Gonna go, I'll have to do this 3 times, but that's okay. So maybe I could do it like that. I could say 6 times 2 is 12, and then I have to fill in with a 0. And then I get 18, and I can say 6 times 3 is 18. And then I will have nothing. Okay, so now I add these up. I have 400, and then I have 50, 10, and 20, and then I have 3. So the 3 is in the ones place, 50, 10, and 20 makes 80. So this is an 8, and then the 4 comes down. So now we have 483. And then I have this over here. I say, count the spaces to the right of the decimal. In this situation, there's 1 space. So then I'm going to just write this bigger over here. I have 483 is what I came up with. But I need to have 1 space to the right of the decimal. So that means my answer is 48 3/10. And then I'm going to do this little check. I'm going to say 48, 49, and 6 times 4 is 24, 25 times 6 is 7, 28, and then 1, and then 1. 289 8/10. Okay, I can also do a quick estimate. 300 divided by 6. I could do 30 divided by 6 is going to be 5, and then there'll be 1 more 0 on it. So my answer will be somewhere around 50, and 48 is somewhere around 50. Okay, so counting spaces works the same as it did in the multiplication problems. Count the number of spaces to the right of the decimal in the problem and match that up to the number of spaces to the right of the decimal in the answer. 1, 1. All right, now for those of you who have become friendly with the traditional method of long division, slightly more complicated. It's slightly easier, but then I put maybe a little harder of a problem on it so we could see that. So step 1, recopy the problem vertically. So I did that for us. Step 2, push the decimal up to the roof. Remember when we talked about this being in the house and this being on the roof? So all you have to do is put a decimal right here in your answer, and then you get to find your answer. So you say, well, 12 times, let's see, 12, 24, 36, 48. That's not going to work. So 36. So 12 times 3 is 36. Borrow 6. And I'm on bring down. I didn't follow my steps where I kind of jumped. How many 12s are in 65? I know 12 times 5 is 60. Subtract. Bring down. How many times does 12 go into 56? Well, we know it's not going to go into 56 evenly because 60 works. So we have to do 4, and that gives us 48. And then we have to borrow, and we get 8. And then this is the part that's like a little bit more complicated, is if you end up with a remainder when you're working on a decimal, this is what you do. You add a 0 on, right? So now I can bring the 0 down. How many 12s go into 80? I know that 12 times 6 is 72, and I'm going to get another 8. And so then I put a 0 and I bring it down, and this is just going to keep repeating, right? And because this is going to keep repeating, this number 6 is just going to keep on going. And there's actually a special way to write that. When it repeats like that, you just put a line over it that says this 6 just keeps repeating. So let's revisit our steps and check ourselves. We recopied vertically. We just push the decimals straight up onto the roof. We divide regularly. If we have a remainder, we keep adding zeros, right? And it keeps on going that way. But we don't have to worry about where to place the decimal. Right. So that is our lesson for the day. Remember, this one is the bonus one because it doesn't divide evenly. Your problems will all divide evenly today, and we'll work more on that kind of more complicated stuff later. You guys are now going to work in your math journals. If you don't have your math journals, you will have in the daily plans a link to the math journal pages that you can print out and do. So, and there's a lot of math journal pages for this section, so if it feels easier to you, you could break the math journal pages up for Monday and Tuesday and skip IXL and just do math journal pages on Tuesday as well to get caught up. I hope that you had fun with all these different ways and that they feel comfortable to you because you've kind of seen them before and tried them out in the multiplication way. And I hope that that was interesting. If it was scary, then don't worry about it. We'll look at it lots of times before we expect you to understand it. So that little bit of adding the 0, just a little bonus for thinking extra and not something to worry about. Take care. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.